we're dressed up in our orange, and from our gospel messages, there is one parallel with the book of Esther. Esther takes place in ancient Persia, okay, which is modern-day Iran. Persia and Iran, they're not synonymous, they're similar. The word Persia comes from a southern province in Iran, Pars. So they are used interchangeably, but don't mean exactly the same. Of course, and with the orange, I was very encouraged, quite pleased today, as I see so many people, but we have a gentleman who's sporting a similar style on the color orange. I mean, I think it looks really good. Right in front of me. So I was so excited about that we didn't plan this out. We walked in and there we were, like the same socks. Interesting, these little surprises in life. Right, let's begin though, right with Esther. And let's see, there we go. Our path to peace. Let's walk. When we start walking, we're going to be coming into the world of Esther, which of course will be in ancient Persia. And I'm going to show you right now where this story takes place. Okay? Right there. Follow the green. Right there. Susa. Right there. You see that? The green dot. Right here is Iran. Ancient Sumer, Ur, which is Iraq. Persian Gulf. Right here. Kuwait. But this is where it takes place. The story of Esther in ancient Persia. Okay, we're just going to turn this off for a second. Bingo. Why? Now, this is important in our gospel readings. And what's the parallel? It's a good question. What is the parallel with Esther and the color orange? Well, let's draw the story out. The Jewish people are outside of their home. Okay? They're not in what is the borders of Israel, Palestine. They're in Persia, which is now Iran. We have a king. His Greek name, maybe it's easier to pronounce, Xerxes, or maybe it's as difficult as Ahasuerus, which is the Persian. But the king did have another wife, Vashti. Okay? She was summoned, but she didn't want to come anymore. She was, for some reason, she was growing disenchanted with the king. Now, 3,000 years ago, even today, 2021, this can create difficulties. If you look at monarchies around the world, they want to present unity, order. This was not going on during the time of Esther. So the king decided to have a contest. He wanted to get to know the people in his land. There was a gentleman named Mordecai. You heard him. He was Jewish, which his identity was secret, convinced Esther, okay, who was also Jewish, but their identity was hidden, to enter this contest. And of course, let's fast forward. She won. And as a result, Queen Esther. So this could have been where America's Got Talent first got its idea. I have no idea, but now as a result, we have Queen Esther. So there's another gentleman in this story, Haman. Is there a Haman in your life? He wanted to, as you can guess, get rid of all the Jews, kill them all. Yep, we've heard this story before. Why this keeps on repeating itself in different ways in human history is still unknown to me. So, Mordecai hears of a plot to kill all the Jews. The problem was Mordecai would not bow down to Haman. Remember, right in Ten Commandments, the very first one, recognize no other gods before me. It's very clear. only one to bow down towards would be Yahweh. Okay? So clearly, Mordecai's wish, Haman's wish, that Mordecai bow down to him was not going to happen. So the order goes out secretly. The king signs off without knowing his queen, Queen Esther, is also of Jewish origin. Mordecai is also of Jewish origin. So then the plot thickens. Mordecai asks Queen Esther to intervene. She is a little afraid at first. I'm going to go approach the king. The king has made an order, and now I want the king to change the order. She's scared. We see this again also throughout human history and even today. Speaking truth to power. Okay? Telling political leaders, hey folks, the previous decisions you've made have been in error. They've been wrong. Serious damage, human life has been lost. Look at today in our world. Citizens approaching governments, even religious leaders, political leaders, some parts of the world, disagreeing with them could result in your imprisonment or death. So Queen Esther is very afraid. But she does this. She still does it. Mordecai reminds her that if she doesn't, the legacy of the Jewish generation in ancient Persia will fall on her hands, and eventually she herself will have to be held accountable and suffer the consequences of what one individual, Haman, and his grievance, his bigotry, close-mindedness has created. The king is outraged after his discussion with Esther. The story is celebrated in the Jewish liturgical calendar. I don't know if any of you have ever taken part, but it's called Purim Spiel. Okay? Don't know if any of you speak any Yiddish, or some of you speak German, you may be able to recognize that. Purim Spiel meaning gameplay. Okay? Literally taking of the lots. At a synagogue, people dress up, think like Halloween time. And another interesting quirk about Purim Spiel, it is encouraged, really is, it's encouraged to drink. So, at the synagogue, at Purim Spiel, once the festivities are over, there's a lot of taxi cabs outside, because people have really been reveling in Purim Spiel, and unfortunately they are too inebriated to drive home. So it is, though, a lot of fun, Purim Spiel. My first time with that was in the city of Hamilton. It was very, very enjoyable. So the story of Esther, it concludes on a positive note. The evil works of Haman are unveiled, and he is brought to justice. Actually, the gallows that he had created for Mordecai to be hung, he himself was found in those exact same gallows. Justice was served. And something else interesting about the book of Esther, it is the only book, very interesting, not to be discovered, 1948, in the Qumran caves in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Again, why? Scholarly debate, because it's also the only story which takes place outside of ancient Israel, meaning Israel, Palestine, Egypt, Babylon. It's the only one, which is the story of Esther. Now, let's fast forward a little bit. We've been talking about Esther. Okay, and let's go. Here we go. Every child matters. Now we bring our color orange. 1492. What happened in 1492. Contact. Christopher Columbus makes contact in the Caribbean. I think there's plenty of debate. We won't get into it. That contact was made with Indigenous peoples in North America before Christopher Columbus by the Vikings, likely Newfoundland and Labrador, maybe even Nova Scotia, but that's for another day. Unfortunately, what happened is, well, not a positive ending. Matter of fact, the story, it's still being written. People living already in their traditional lands, encountering visitors, identifying with the Christian faith. Most of them. Everyone, I don't know. But unfortunately what happens is colonialization, the doctrine of discovery, God, glory, and gold. Great riches, dreams, wealth of the monarchies, Spain, Portugal, France, happened in smaller amounts, smaller degrees. Netherlands, also England. When you look at the readings I just mentioned, also in Growing in Faith, Ephesians 4:29, Matthew 7:12, or the words from Lao Tzu, mastering yourself. What happened to all that? When you look at this, every child matters. Look at all these stones. Why were there all these unmarked graves? What would Jesus have to say about this? If Jesus was on one of those ships with Christopher Columbus, how would he? It's interesting. How would Jesus have spoken with the Indigenous people living in what we call now Newfoundland and Labrador, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, here in Ontario, Quebec? Something I want to share with you, I don't know what Jesus would say, but maybe it looks something like this. This is actually a Six Nations Reserve. Okay, it's near Brantford, Ontario. Grand River United Church. There are many gifts, but the same Spirit. Okay, the same Spirit. Now, I want you to look at this. What would Jesus do? You see this image? You can guess who that is? It is Jesus. Now, it looks different than what we see and they are beautiful, the lovely cathedrals of Europe, churches, small churches, Canada, United States. It's obviously Jesus, which is more representative of Indigenous color. Okay? Dialogue. A church of dialogue and reconciliation. The candle of truth and reconciliation. Cultures, very different cultures coming together. Different ideas of what God may be. Christ, Jesus. No, there's no mention of him in the Mohawk, Cree, Anishinaabe, Huron. However, there are the same concepts of love, the importance of listening, respect, dignity, sharing. When you look at this image, the possibilities of what Christianity can be as we go forward and we reflect on the orange that we're wearing. Two very different cultures coming together in peace and harmony. Contrast that with God, glory, and gold. It's a very, very different message. Now, next, You look at all the colors, okay? The beautiful colors of the landscape. How did this happen? It's going to be happening here. And this is my second fall, right here in the Kawarthas. It's going to be looking like this. Lovely, it's beautiful, peaceful. Which is, again, it is in contrast to some, unfortunately, the violence that we heard from our gospel reading, from the Gospel of Mark. But amongst that violence, there is a verse in our readings today. Mark 9:49, of salt, the importance of salt, and making peace with one another. Mark 9:49. Okay? As we strive, bring that message out from Mark, story of Esther, how she made peace, Jewish in Persian lands. Story I'm going to conclude with is, how did the leaves change color? Well, and there are these green leaves, we all see them. They fall. The leaves, they spoke to the Creator. And we can laugh at this. You know, Andrew, how is a leaf going to talk to God? The leaves don't talk. No, I haven't heard leaf language. I mean, the only leaf language that I'm really familiar with it's kind of depressing, because they always get eliminated in the playoffs every year. What a bummer. But at least these leaves, they change different color and they look lovely. So the story with the leaves is, they ask the Creator, why must we fall every year, be trampled upon, disintegrate into the earth? The Creator told them it's part of the rejuvenation of life. Oh, okay. They asked the Creator, could we do a different role, a different purpose? The Creator's imagination. I can't explain, I'm human. However, there was a response. The Creator enabled the leaves to change color, which is why we see, it's going to be coming real soon, in a few weeks, the color in the Kawarthas. Maybe right in your backyard. So the leaves changed colors. The Indigenous people admired their beauty, the beauty of God's creation. The leaves still fell, disintegrated, became one with the earth, fertilizer, rejuvenation for the next generation. And yes, the leaves came back. When you hear this story, again, we can laugh because no, it's not in the Gospel of Mark, John, Matthew, Luke. No, it's not anywhere else in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Nowhere in the Old New Testament, not even Ethiopian Orthodox. No, it's nowhere there. However, there are different understandings of what God may or may not be. There's even different understandings. Is there one God? Or there are multiple. There's different understandings on what a prophet is. And today, especially today, with the orange that we wear, and we're upholding the stories of our First Nations people, let's bring out that diversity. You saw it in the image where Jesus, as a First Nations man. And let's reflect on Mark 9:49, making peace with one another. Let us lift this up. We're doing it really shortly with music, with the simple words. We play them at my covenanting service. The good news is, folks, you're going to be hearing Brenda's voice, not mine. I will be concluding with these important words. Please listen carefully. Brenda.
One God, many names. One God, many peoples. One God of sky and sea, and earth as cold as here.
Praise be the peace and love of all of God's messengers fall upon you for now and evermore. Amen.